Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Ryan, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86, east end of Listowel, our friends over at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course the Listowel Squash Courts. We'll hear a bit more from them later. Ryan Drury back here with Clarkey, and it's the last show of 2023. We got to end it off right, so we thought we'd invite back friend of the show, our buddy Mike Gentile, producer over at the Fan590. Mike, how are you, man? Happy holidays.
Save the best for last, eh? Right at the end of December.
Yes.
Producer and host, Ryan. He's hosting now, too.
That's right. Yes, he is.
That's right. Yeah. Saturday mornings, 9 to noon. Cheap plug.
And evenings. You've been on
and I do some evenings, yeah. A lot of Thursdays.
You're doing evenings, yeah. We've heard you. We've heard you on there, dude.
It's fun. I like it.
That's good. Well, you know your stuff, and that's why we have you on.
Oh, thanks.
Well, yes, I would like to think so. And obviously, you know, as we turn the last pages here on what's left of 2023. Pretty interesting year in the Toronto sports scene. A lot of big stories to cover. Obviously, the Leafs flopped in the playoffs again. They've had a good start to this regular season. The Jays flopped even harder. The Raptors are mired in whatever they're doing. The Argos had the biggest choke of them all. I mean, holy cat, TFC's a disaster. Like, there's some very weird...
Good.
A year...
Sports radio must be thriving.
Yes. Someone must be asking you to write a Toronto sports brochure. Those are some great selling points.
Isn't it just, Mike? What's it been like over the last year to cover this cacophony of overall negativity, I would say?
Well, what's funny is when you look back at the year, the best way to do it is looking back at the top stories, and that'll help define what kind of year it was. And there were things that I was making a top 5 list, and like John Herdman going to TFC was a pretty big story. To leave Team Canada. He's not in the top 5. The Argos are not even in the top 5. And that was a wild 16-2 season. Was interesting about the Argos is they they woke up the fan base. People started coming out again. I thought they squandered a great opportunity. 16-2. There you go. Beautiful stuff there.
Clark. I wanted
another one of those.
They should have been in that great. That was the most disappointing.
It was
because it was such a loss of opportunity. People always take a crap on the CFL. The Argos had one of their best seasons ever. Anyway, so that didn't make the list. There's fun stuff. The home run jacket goes away. The Leafs bongo the goal song, that goes away. The Jays sell 70,000 hot dogs in one night. So you had a lot of fun stuff. But here's my top 5. And I think this helps answer your question.
Yeah.
What the heck we just saw. Number 5 is Nick Nurse gets fired by the Raptors. That's only 5. That's kind of a big deal. That's 5.
That's a good one. Wow.
4 is... And I know we talked about the Leafs flop, but you know what 4 is for me? The Leafs win a round. The first time they won a round in the Matthews era, they won a round this year. I know we think about the Florida loss. We can talk about it, but Leafs winning around is a big one for me. 3 was the Jays getting bounced with no runs and the Barrios yank, followed by the Atkins press conferences was terrible. So that whole Jays demise was massive, like by itself. 2 for me is Kyle Dubas gets fired publicly. And he gets fired because of his press conference. So he's 2. And then think about it. It was a public firing. Like, it's nuts. He wanted to come back. They wanted him back. Press conference happens. He's out of a job. Like, we've never seen that before. And then number 1 was just all in on Ohtani. That was crazy. That was something. Even not getting him, just following that story was just insane.
I want to ask you how your day was. Give us a day of the life of a sports radio producer that day.
That day, I'll say it was one of the most fun days ever. Ever. It starts off with some dribs and drabs of this insider says this, a guy from LA says that, and then it turns into it's going to happen today, and then it morphed into this whole flight tracking thing, right? So I get to work and we're sitting around like, okay, I think it's going to happen. And I was at 0% the whole time. I was not believing he was coming here. But then at that point, what's weird, you know this, Clarkey, when there's a few teams left at the end and all the momentum is going to Toronto, it's very odd for it to just turn back to the other team. It just felt like the Dodgers were going to be out. And anyways, just lined up. So we're sitting around saying, this could be one of the most historic days of our life here. Like, what are we going to do? So you're following it. And then we hear the stuff about the flight. And now because we're at work, we have access to stuff and different feeds. So there was a monitor with a helicopter feed. I think it was the city news cam or whatever. So we, at one point, it was like 10, 15 people sitting around one monitor just staring at this plane. It just landed. Who's coming out of it? The customs agents come around, and we're just thinking like this could be it. But the hard part was
It wasn't.
exactly the information from the facts and from the disinformation. So here's the thing: I got no problem with people tracking a flight. You got to follow a lead in stories. It's like a detective.
Yeah.
Even if the lead turns up nothing, you do your job. The issue I have is not tracking flights. The issue I have is people posting a video online of Ohtani in an airport saying, that's Toronto, he's here. Like, that's a straight lie. So that's different from getting excited and tracking versus people telling lies online. And I was saying to this in the office, I said, guys, honestly, like, if this is 5 years, 10 years from now with AI, we're going to have no idea what's real. We're going to see an actual video of this guy like walking into the Rogers Center and taking swings and I have no idea it's fake. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that all happens. And then by the end of the day, when it was confirmed he was not in Toronto, all that was confirmed was he was not in Toronto. Doesn't mean the deal wasn't going to happen. But we all walked away thinking like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It felt like it died.
Like if
once it was confirmed. Right? Yeah. And you know what? The agents throw stuff out. One of our guys, Ben Nicholson-Smith, was also told that it was done, that he was going to Toronto, but he didn't report it because he didn't trust it. You have to corroborate a lot of the sources and that sort of stuff. And he felt like something's not right here. Until we hear it from the horse's mouth, we can't do it. And so he kind of held back and some other guys got burned and that was tricky. But just the day of tracking that, and we're literally sitting around waiting, not knowing who to book. Are you talking about he picked LA and now it's like, oh, Toronto's down? He picked Toronto, now it's like historic, or we have to wait another night and not know? It was like almost being like held hostage by the story. It was wild. But the 15 people behind one TV looking at a helicopter was the best.
And I'm sure because you work where you do, all your buddies and everyone and their mothers probably thought Mike Gentile, though he works for Rogers.
Oh, you know what's funny about that? People think because you work for Rogers like that we're on the inside. That Ross Atkins is like, hey guys, great meeting today. Here's what happened. We're so much on the outside. If you think about it this way, to prove that we're on the outside. When the story came out of the plane being tracked with Ohtani being in it, the Jays knew he wasn't on that plane.
Right. Of course they did.
So they didn't.
And they could have killed it right then and there.
Yeah. So they didn't go. So like people think we're like in lockstep with them. No, like they didn't call us and say, hey guys, I saw that story. They do their own thing. They're their own entity. So even though we're owned by the same company, it's not like we're all in the same room together. So there was a thought that we know it all, or we're like celebrating and all that sort of thing. But no, we were watching like any other sports fan thinking this might be the craziest thing we've ever seen. And they were in it, like money-wise. You know, what we learned, that it wasn't Toronto and LA only. We learned for a fact there was 4 teams. Toronto, LA, the other LA team, the Angels, and the Giants. All 4 of those teams were proposed the same deal. The Angels said no, and everyone else said yes to it. And then he picked the Dodgers. And I had said all along, I don't think he was coming here, but the only way he'd come here is if there's a number that the Dodgers would walk away from. I don't know what that number is. Was it 800? Was it 900? Like, what was the number? If that number exists and the Jays go above that number, they'll get him. That's it. But if all things are equal, of course he chose LA. Wouldn't it be a surprise? So
it was a wild day.
It was a wild day. It was something that you can't really compare it to. Really, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was like nothing we've seen in a long, long time. And, you know, leading up to that day and all the flight tracking, like we were on the show that week talking about the possibilities, just allowing ourselves to dream. That's what Jays Nation did. We allowed ourselves to dream, didn't we, Clarkey? Wasn't that a fun week where we were dreaming, man? My teachers always told me when I was a kid, shoot for the moon, you might land in the stars. And boy, were we shooting for the moon, buddy. And it just did not happen.
Well, I was trying.
What a crushing day.
I was trying to egg Ryan on because Ryan didn't.
You were,
and I kept putting like sushi restaurant booked, like all this stuff that we heard about.
It was all adding up. Like
I said, he's coming, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, It was crazy.
Was it
Let's take this a step further now. And we'll get to some of your other top five because I like it. But the Jays, like, where does that leave them? Because, we went into this offseason, I did anyway, Ryan did too, I think, thinking this management team can't, put 12 eggs in a
build
basket.
a winner.
Like, they can't. And then we thought, oh my God, they're going to get Ohtani. These guys are the best ever. Well, we're back to reality, and they haven't done a thing. Like, what's going on? Where is this team going?
They're in some trouble because here's the thing. Baltimore was already better. They still are.
Yeah.
Tampa was already better. They still are. The Yankees got better. The Yankees got Soto. They may get Yamamoto. You could argue they're better. So you're looking at 4 and 5 in the AL East right now. Like, they're closer to the bottom than they are the top of that division. Okay, for starters. 2 is the Ohtani money. It's not like they gave them $600-700 million and said, go make a good team. Okay, it failed on showing. Now I'm just going to spend that $6.
Yeah.
That budget is gone. That disappeared.
Right.
There's
That was
still
a one
money,
time only.
but it's not like for what there was a business case for him. You don't have for Cody Bellinger. My issue is we keep talking about the same people. Oh, they got to get Bellinger. They just people just look at the free agent list and just say who's the best one there, and let's get. Well, so like another guy whose best years were in the past. Like, can we get someone whose best years are in the present or in the future? Like, why do you got to go back and get someone like that? I think they should look out of the box. If they were willing to get Ohtani, if they were willing to get Soto, you call up the Padres, maybe a Manny Machado, maybe a Fernando Tatis. Like pick any player in baseball. Mike Trout. If you were in on Ohtani, it means you could try for anybody. And I think just sitting there and selecting, okay, who's the best free agent that's just still sitting around? Let's overpay this guy. Doesn't make sense. Also, other teams want to sign these guys. So it's like, well, they should get Bellinger, then they'll get Jorge Solar, then they'll get this guy. And like, well, first off, you're assuming they're not going to go to another team. Secondly, you're going to have to overpay for these guys. So, they don't have a left fielder. That they could figure that out. Don't have a DH. They could figure that out. They don't have a second baseman, and they don't have a third baseman. They're going to maybe bring back Chapman, and they got no offense.
Yeah.
Kind of a problem. And they also don't, they also have holes in their bullpen now, because keep in mind, Genesis Cabrera's not coming back.
Yeah. So the Ohtani thing happened not because they had the money. You got to say, why do they have the money? You have to go backward. They were able to have the money to go after the guy because it's a perfect storm. The teams had playoff failures. The GM's on the hot seat. They renovated the stadium. They need to sell those seats. Right? All these things are happening. Vlad and Bo are done in 2 years. So it's like they got to figure this thing out sooner than later. So that all led, I think, to getting that money approved and trying to get Ohtani. But now, like, what are you going to do? You can't just sit there picking up the scraps of what's left. But they got a lot of work to. They had a lot of work to do if they got Ohtani.
Yes.
Ohtani,
Yes,
you know what he was? It sounds bad. He was a great replacement for Brandon Belt. He's a left-handed DH. And he'd be amazing. No one's saying that, but you still needed to build the team. So who's left? And I think there's the most angst. Like we were talking about this yesterday. Which Toronto team has the most angst? Like the Raptors fans are kind of annoyed at what's happening. We'll see what happens at the deadline.
They still play the Raptors?
Oh my goodness. Then you got the Leafs, where I think there's a bit of doubt. I think people all know they're a good team, but they all know deep down, like, that's not a Stanley Cup roster.
Yeah, it's almost a malaise with
it's
the
weird.
Leafs.
But with the Jays, there's angst.
Yes.
Because all of Toronto cheers for
Canada.
the Jays. All of Canada. It's not so the Leafs are split up and that sort of thing, and the Raptors, but the Jays are really a Canadian team. And I think the angst around them is high. Guys, they didn't win a single playoff, not series, game.
Game.
They didn't score a run.
They haven't since these guys came, if I'm not mistaken.
They have no wins, no playoff wins in the Vladdy Bo era. Not series,
Incredible.
a single game.
Yeah.
That's insane. So they got they got a couple of years to we'll know in 2 years.
Yeah.
Where they figured it out and they're going to be a contender, or they're going to have to start over again. Because now you have they have two guys. All they have on their whole roster, aside from the starting pitching, which is great, but they got two guys. They got Vlad and Bo. Every other position you can't argue for. They got all those holes I mentioned, and they kind of got a problem with George Springer. He's kind of overpaid, and he's injured all the time, and probably not meant to be your leadoff hitter anymore. So they got problems in the holes to fill. They got problems with the guys they have. Where's Alek Manoah going this year? What's up with him?
Great question.
Is he on the Jays? Is he getting traded? Like, so you got 4 or 5 holes to fill and issues with current players. So I think there's a lot of work to be done.
Mike, I want to ask you because, last week we were really digging into this with our friend Rob Longley, who's covered the Jays for a long time. And I threw a couple names at him and you brought up a couple examples that I'm kind of hot to trot on in terms of the Padres, because an article came out this week. Jeff Passan was writing that the ownership in San Diego is looking to severely cut back their luxury tax payments because they were paying upwards of $40 million for the roster they put together last year, which horribly flopped. So they're looking to way cut back. So of the two that are being rumored to maybe be in there, because Bogarts isn't going anywhere. He just signed.
No.
And they're not getting rid of those pitchers either, unless someone puts a mountain in front of them to get Blake Snell, which I doubt. So it's Machado or it's Tatis, who has had his share of ups and downs off the field and on. And I know that it's been, bandied about that ownership and management there are a little annoyed with him despite the talent that's still there. Of those two guys there, before I throw another name at you, who would you rather have? I think I'd rather have Machado because he's more of a sure thing, but I would hear an argument for Tatis.
No, Tatis would make sense, but it's a deal like you gotta ask yourself, who do they got to give up? Now are you trading Vladdy to get one of these guys? Like that's where they fell short on the Soto stuff. They didn't have enough to go and get him. I'm with you. I like Machado. They have an opening at third base. That's what you need the most. He's in decline and he has a ton of money due. I think it was a $300 million deal. But if you have to just say whatever it was, he fits. Like you can go through a year. Like if they sign Ohtani and you said, you know what, Biggio and Schneider and all these other guys are going to play second. Who cares? Like we'll deal with that. You can't mess with third base. So like Machado going there and having some offense with him, I think would be really good. Chapman, his defense has been great in the past and all that sort of thing. And won another silver or gold glove, whatever it was this year. But he also had more errors than Bo Bichette this year. So I don't know. I like Machado. The problem is, if they didn't work in San Diego and they're overpaid, why are they going to work here? Oh, those guys are so amazing. If they're so amazing, they wouldn't be available. So that's the issue. And what this comes back to is the Jays depleted their farm system. Okay. They don't have enough there to acquire someone in a deal. But you know what they really need? Their own Machado, their own Aaron Judge, someone they brought up on their own. Like now that there's an opening at second and third, it should be perfect. They got these 3 guys to choose from. No one believes in them. They have Ricky Tiedemann. So that's it. He's a pitcher. So, the fact that they went about it the way they did, it hasn't worked. They put all their money in pitching. The pitching worked. They didn't address the hitting at all. And now they're kind of stuck. And now it's almost like a Jenga puzzle. Okay, you want to grab a great hitter, then you got to get rid of one of those pitchers maybe. Like, or you got to get rid of Vlad or Bo. Well, if you do that, now you're minusing another all-star. So now we're just replacing this guy, but how do you add on and get better? So that's your free agency is amazing. That's why it's called free. You just add it to your team. You just, right? Just add that money, but you don't have to give stuff up. They don't have enough capital.
Yeah, I agree. And we've discussed this many times that I think that's an underrated part of why people are so frustrated with Shapiro and Atkins. That was supposed to be their bread and butter, keeping a very budget oriented team, a budget strapped team in Cleveland, continuously bringing guys through. They have failed to do that in I would venture to say spectacular fashion in Toronto. Like their farm system is quite embarrassing, I'll be quite honest. Like when you consider the resources available to them and that beautiful new facility down in Dunedin, like the fact that they don't have a top 15 farm system, let alone top 10, is embarrassing. Yeah. I'll throw another name at you too that Clarkey, I love this guy. We brought him up with Rob last week. He's on board. They're going to have an issue out in the field, and whether or not they push Varsho over to center or go and get a guy that I've been a big fan of on a team that refuses to pay star players to stick around. I would really love if the Jays would go out and get Brian Reynolds out of Pittsburgh.
You know what? He was linked here last year, especially closer towards the deadline and such.
Huh?
I think it's a great. We had David Sampson on the station, former exec with the Expos and the Marlins, and he said, "Listen, you need guys on your roster that are going to outperform their salary if you want to win a championship." So he threw names like JD Martinez. He threw out Justin Turner, guys that have done it in the past. They're not Ohtani or anything, but someone that you can envision outperforming what you have to pay them. And so Reynolds is another one. It's not going to completely break the bank, I guess, in a way. He's not cheap, but no, I think he'd be a great ad, and I think he's got more to give than the others. I feel more comfortable with him than a Tatis in a way from a health standpoint and from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, healthy, good defensive metrics, great hitter. Hits for power, hits for average, gets on base a lot on a Pittsburgh team that's, they're okay. But Reynolds is the heartbeat, and I think he would be a great engine.
But guys, they'll be fine because now Don Mattingly's their offensive coordinator, and now that they have an OC,
oh, good, yeah,
right? Really? So, like, who's their defensive coordinator?
I don't know, dude.
I love these titles. Like when that came out, I don't know why that got me. They're calling him the offensive, and that he's now going to be in charge. He's going to have more input. He was very respectful. So I'm like, so wait a second. So what was he doing last year?
Right. Bench coach. Like what? Right. Yeah. But yeah, exactly.
He's like a season ticket holder who gets
two guys
paid
trying to
go
be
to the
smarter
game.
than the rest of them. That's what it is.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. That was super weird. I mean, and also like he's Donnie Baseball. Like he doesn't need to be showing respect to everybody. He's the most seasoned guy in there.
You didn't know by All-Star break that there was a problem? You didn't know by trade deadline that there was an issue? That they didn't know how to like approach in that bat?
Mike,
and
listen,
so
the computers said no. Computers said there wasn't an issue and it would turn around.
You know what's funny? Okay. I come this term. There's analytics and there's peoplelytics. Peoplelytics is what actually runs the game. It's people that make decisions and then they blame the robots when it doesn't work. Even if the analytics tell you to pull Barrios and all that sort of thing, it's a cop-out to say that's why they did it.
100%.
Those numbers are presented, and you have to be a human being and then decipher that. Mm-hmm. And you can't use it as a scapegoat later, say, well, here's what No, it's not that the number said. You made that choice. You did. So people just constantly like pushing stuff like Schneider pushing it to Atkins or Atkins pushing it to somebody else. Sheldon Keefe the other day pushing it to Curtis Sanford, but why they didn't pull Samson off in the Jackets game? It's like, you're the head coach. Like, it doesn't matter what other opinions are from your staff. You're in charge. So, we looked at it this way and he was looking at it that way. Just like take some responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're paid for anyway, or at least you're supposed to be.
So number 2 on your list was Dubas leaving the Leafs. Fired, whatever you want to say. He was out of a contract. And as you mentioned, it seemed like everything was going fine. And then all of a sudden, after the press conference, he was gone. There's also word, and who knows if it's true or not, that he and Shanahan really saw differently on the Mitch Marner situation if they should trade Mitch. In hindsight, because now he's got a no trade, should they have traded Mitch Marner?
Well, I look at it this way. So when they got John Tavares, I wasn't a fan of the deal, not because of the player, and he's earned it, and he's finally got his flowers. Okay, he got his 1,000 points, all that sort of stuff. The issue I had was, okay, well, you have too much of one thing here because you already had Matthews, you had Marner, you had Nylander. So if you look at those 4, Matthews is never getting traded; he's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. No one's taking on the Tavares salary. Like you can't trade John, right? Mm-hmm. So then in the middle, you got Nylander, who suddenly looks like he could be the best player on the team, and then you got more. So one of those guys should have been traded to either get a star goalie or a Norris winning type of defenseman. Because when you look at it, yes, not everyone's going to get a Carey Price or a Vasilevsky, a Brodeur, a Patrick Waugh. Like those goalies don't exist, and you could win with Darcy Kemper, and you could win with Braden Holtby, right? And people throw that out there, but what they leave out is all those teams, even the ones that didn't have the great goaltending, they all had an amazing defenseman. Alex Pietrangelo twice, John Carlson, Makar, Victor Hedman. Like Toronto has
no doubt.
Toronto has no scary defenseman. They have no. I was talking to Hal Gill a couple weeks ago before the Leafs and Preds game, and I'm like, explain to us the difference when a team has that kind of defender, a Chris Pronger, one of those guys. And he was talking about how when you get on the ice, he makes you play different. Like when you have that kind of defenseman, everything you do is around. He goes, now you could eliminate whoever's on the back end and just worry about the forwards. No one's scaring you that much. And so I think to answer your question, Clarkey, yeah, they probably should have because they had too much of one thing. And here's the proof. Brad Treliving comes in, different guy, different approach, different whatever. Same problem. Same problem. He's got 4 guys making too much and he can't make enough changes. So all they do is recycle, like Freddie Anderson becomes Jack Campbell, becomes Samsonov. Same guy. Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza, Patrick Marleau, same guy. From Ryan O'Reilly, Achari, Bertuzzi. They're just changing things around the edges, around that core 4. And I think it's another example of why the salary cap, it's great for the league, great for the owners, not great for the fans. Not great for the fans.
No, but they don't
Who's
care.
this helping? This team, I feel sorry for them. They can't make a bloody move. They can't do anything. And so should we be sitting here saying, well, thank God they got this hard cap because of the parity. I'm like, go fix that team. These guys make so much money. It's unfair that they're stuck and can't fix it. So I think they just spent their money too much in like the wrong spot. And, JT is not someone you could pick on for his play, for his, for his character, all that kind of stuff. But this other notion of, well, he's going to be happy just to stay here. So he's going to have to take a massive haircut and, maybe 6-7 million. Like what planet are we living on? Like this guy's going to turn around, an $11 million player is just going to chop $4 million off because he had leaf sheets when he was younger. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah,
they spent too much money. So I thought all along they should pick Marner or Nylander and trade them to improve the areas of the team that they need to improve to win a cup. Because they're not winning with this
I
roster.
agree. I no, they aren't. And it's tough to trade a Marner for sure.
Of course.
It's tough to win a deal with Mitch Marner going the other way. But to get better, they have to. And unfortunately, he's got no trade now. As you mentioned earlier about the baseball analogy, Nylander's outperforming his salary. And that's what they need. They need that right now.
Exactly.
So they're in of course, I bleed blue and white.
Yeah.
I think there's no magic formula to win the cup. And there's no one saying that this team with the core 4 and the players around it can't win the cup.
Yes, there is. I dispute that heavily. Yes, there is.
Why?
Mike just said that.
Why?
I've said that to you.
What's the magic formula?
Times.
What's the magic formula?
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily this magic formula you're talking about, but there is a proper way to construct a team where ideally you have a good spread of talent throughout all 3 areas of the ice, that being your forwards, your defense, your goaltending. And the Leafs do not have that. They have been, and remain an extremely top-heavy team. And as Mike just said, and as I've said for the last 8 years,
I know what you're saying.
That D-core stinks. And I'm not afraid to play them in a 7-game series. I know
what you're saying, Ryan. All I'm saying is there a magic crystal ball that says the same thing's going to happen this year? No, there isn't.
But I guarantee
I say anything can happen.
Stanley Cup. Yes, anything can happen. But I promise you.
But you have to use the data in front of you. In 7 years, what's happened is 1 series win.
I agree with you.
And
right?
also,
I think we all agree.
Don't dispute that.
No,
I don't dispute that. But
we do agree. Go back through. Here's your magic formula. Go back through all 100+ years of NHL history.
So no surprise teams ever won the cup. No team has ever gone from last place.
Not saying there hasn't been a surprise
the St. Louis
team.
Blues winning the cup.
But every team that's won had a big, scary defenseman that no one liked playing against.
Yeah.
There's 3 things you got to have. And these are 3 things the team I have not seen from. 1, you need a goalie that on any given night is going to steal a game and be better than the other goalie. All the Leafs goalies recently have just been good enough. They didn't have a Bobrovsky style of goalie that's going to steal you. Okay, so that's only one thing. 2 is, like I said, the big booming defenseman, the quarterback power play, the guy that scares the lights out of you. They haven't had that. Put that to the side, okay? And 3, just overall toughness and being tough to play against and grinding you down. They don't have that either. Those 3 things they have never had in this 7-8 year stretch. So it's not an exact formula. I mean, all they need, honestly, they have enough talent. Like we're seeing it this year. I mean, let's be honest. These guys come back.
Great.
When they want to turn it up, they can do it. Right? Against Columbus, like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go and score 5 goals in the third period. How many late third period goals has this team scored this year? It feels like every night. And then they get to overtime. I don't want to see them in overtime. I don't want to see them in the shootout. They're dangerous. Like, they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had, honestly,
but we know that's not going to happen in the playoffs.
No. So if they had a goalie that could steal games, literally rob a team of a game with those forwards, anything could happen. But they don't have that kind of goalie. Doesn't mean their goalie's terrible, but they don't have that. So if you don't have one thing, you got to have another, and you offset. So the Blues had Pietrangelo, which was great.
Yeah,
they had a grinding type of team. Mm-hmm. Binnington wasn't Patrick Waugh. Like, Binnington wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. But they had enough of the other two bits to carry.
He didn't have to be.
Right.
So you
have to have at least a couple of those things, but you can't go 0 for 3. And they're not a tough team to play against. The other problem I have with this team is whenever something goes good, they check out. They go beat Tampa. They finally win that series. They lay an egg at home against Florida. They go to Sweden, and everyone's talking about how fantastic they are, and Nylander and scoring in overtime. Whenever they come home, they laid a couple eggs. They got two. Like, every time they do something great, they follow it up.
They've also been the best team in the league in the last 30 days. After that,
right.
So they found it. But again,
they do.
But it doesn't
great,
matter.
They do great. They do great little pockets.
Hey, smartass, I know what you're saying.
I get it,
Ryan.
Pockets.
I get it.
I'm not being a smartass. This is what they do.
Well, there was one time I was looking at this team and I was like, man, they're not looking great. Like, they can't win games in reg. And
you know what they're doing, Gentile? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. In the last 2.5 weeks, they are actually outworking their opponent. They are. They are.
Totally agree.
They are outworking them. And
that's why I think this is not right now.
I think he's playing really
looking
well.
Ahead.
We'll see. We'll see. This team's going to be different come the playoffs, so we'll see.
But it's funny, just to close the point, I was thinking like, man, these guys don't look great. They can't, all these games going overtime. And then I look at their last 10 and it was 7-1-2. They got 1 loss in their last 10 games. And we're acting like something's wrong.
I know. They've only lost 6 or 7 in regulation. Like, they have nearly the least amount of losses in regulation.
Of that malaise that has settled on the fan base where they're all going, I don't care. What do you look like in April? Are you going to do this in April?
Yeah.
And
I know.
There's no doubt. I just don't believe because they don't have any defenseman that scares me. Let's give Morgan Riley his flowers. He's played very well. It's incredible the lifetime, no penalty minutes, but it's incredible what he's doing out there. But Morgan Riley is not a guy that in a 7-game series I'm scared. I'm scared on the power play, I guess, because he's a good passer. I'm not afraid to go into the corner with Morgan
Riley. Course not. He's not that type.
He's not Alex Pietrangelo.
No, he's not.
You bring up that Blues team. He's not Colton Parayko. He's not.
But you know what's great, guys? The best thing that you could do is develop your own people. So by fluke or by whatever, you know who they found out of nowhere? It's Joseph Wall. You know what Joseph Wall allows you to do? Bring in Martin Jones. You know what that allows you to do? Maybe you get rid of Samsonov's $3 million per year because now they got a goalie that's capable. And that's not done through trade or free agency. That's you drafting your own people. When you do that, it's incredible.
I agree. Yeah, and let's not hold our breath with Martin Jones yet. Like, even the Ranger game, like, he only was beaten on 1 shot. Like, they scored 5 goals or 4 against him, but only, like, it was, I've never seen a game like that where so many deflections and fluky goals went in, but whatever. It happens, right? Anyway, time will tell. Time will tell. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Clarkey, I quickly want to ask you before we move on to some Raptors chat here.
We got to let Mike go here soon. He's probably wanting to eat dinner or something.
No, I'm good.
I want to ask you quickly, Clarkey, and we will discuss this when our friend Dark Guy comes back on the show. Are you ready to give up on the Samsonov experiment?
Joe Wall's he's the better goalie. So
the answer is yes. Is what?
Well, for sure. If you get a better goalie, of course you can dispose of the other guy.
So can you just say the 2 words that I want to hear here?
You're
just
right.
Say it.
You're right.
Thank you very much.
Screw off.
Mike, let's talk about, because those kind of tie together. Obviously, the Leafs winning the round, Dubas firing. let's talk about the Raptors angle of this too, because yes, letting go of Nick Nurse was extremely significant. They bring in Darko Rajakovic, and it's been a weird roller coaster. Like, they got off to a pretty bad start. Then they had this pretty good little middle bit here on the way to their currently 11-15 record. And now they've kind of come back down to just being not a very good team. What is it? Is it that the core of the team is too young and not ready to win? Or is the bones of this team just not very good at the NBA level?
Well, if you watch their games, one thing you come away with is that they're not a good team. They ain't any good. They're not fooling anyone.
Do people watch the games and go to the games? Like, honestly,
they still go. You know, it's still a fun experience, or whatever. But they're fooling everyone with this. You know,
oh no!
Hey, if we make some changes, maybe we'll get to the top 6. And like the East is open. It's like, even if you convince me you can get to the 5 seed, which they can't. They are at 10-11. But let's dream for a minute, and that they're a 5 or a 6 seed. You still got 5 teams ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the goal should be we could be number 1. So this is just a crock from the management of this team last year, talking people into, well, you never know. Look what happened with the Miami Heat. Ask the Atlanta Hawks how life's going 2 years after making a conference final. You can go on a run and make a phony final run by mistake, and then your team be in the absolute toilet. So the truth is this. Here's 2 things. Masai Ujiri's made massive, great trades in the past, right? Ripping teams off. Then you almost become obsessed with your own formula. Like, I don't think this guy could make a run-of-the-mill trade. He just wants to rip everybody. He's not able to just sit back and just do a deal.
Yeah.
It's always got to be this monstrous thing. So they let Fred go for nothing, and we were okay with it because, like, well, they paid him $43 million. Thank God the Raptors didn't pay him that. Yeah, but you lost him for 0. You gave up a first to get Pirtle. Now you got Siakam. Guess what? Could you imagine he leaves for nothing? Can you imagine 2 years in a row they let franchise star players leave for nothing? It makes 0 sense. So
do they need to trade him, Mike?
Oh, he's got to go. Yeah, they got to do what OKC did with Paul George, because in the NBA you can make trades of stars for like multiple first round picks. So they got to decide if Scotty's the guy and trade whoever else is out there, get their picks, and rebuild it properly.
That would be the ideal thing.
But they're not going anywhere with, like, they're not adding around the edges here, and then they're going to, like, compete. Even if everyone had a career year, they're still, like, a star player short. You know, they're kind of in that area prior to the DeMar DeRozan Lowry era. You know, they eventually needed another guy. Like, Scotty's, like, if he's not the guy, he needs another guy. So, like, how are you going to get him? And you're not going to trade Pascal for that guy. So it's going to take a while. So you got to trade him and use your picks wisely. But keeping him on this team and re-signing him it's not working with him. And you can't lose him for nothing. So I just think, you know what? They spent so much time thinking they were outsmarting the rest of the league. You can't do that forever. It doesn't work.
I'm just upset they couldn't raise an in-season tournament champion banner. That's what I'm upset about.
You know, that thing, bummer. you know where that banner should have been hung? In, like, the concession area where you, like, buy hot dogs.
Yeah.
Or they should have hung that up at 4 a.m. at the practice facility. What a disgrace to put that thing up there with all the
Lakers
upon it.
The Lakers.
If it was the T-Wolves,
Jesus,
Utah, teams that have won nothing in their life, hang it up and have a big
exactly.
Statue. The Lakers, to me, it was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they hang it, don't do a ceremony. Just hang it quietly, and then you can shoot a shot of it later. But it's like, how low do you have to go to sort of celebrate something like that? I get it. You got to, have some intrigue, but it's it's like the only thing worse than that would be like hanging up, if you're in the East, like an all-star banner.
Mm-hmm.
We won the all-star game this year. We're going to put a banner up. Give me a break.
It's the Lakers. I wouldn't be shocked to learn that the league maybe made them hang it. I don't know.
Oh, there's no doubt the league wants to make that bigger.
LeBron, like, the look on his face as it was going up was like,
what, guys that were taking it easy for the whole season, then they only gave a crap when the tournament came around, got their money, and then they went back to the toilet. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. Mike, it's been great having you on and getting your perspective on some of the biggest storylines in Toronto this year. What a year it was. Let's hope for better things in 2024. Mike Gentile, producer on the Fan 590 and host on the station as well. You can find his list up on Sportsnet, 5 biggest stories out of Toronto this year. Man, it was a weird one, and we're hoping that 2024 is a little more coherent for the Toronto sports scene. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, my friend. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Good luck in the new year and keep instigating.
We will. We're available for a Saturday morning guest appearance on the Fan if you ever need us.
I like where this discussion went. We can keep it going.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good idea, guys.
Friend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Gentile of the Fan 590. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we got to end things off with our couch potatoes of the week to end off 2023. I'm sure there will be some interesting selections. That's up next here on Instigating. Wrapping things up on the last edition of Instigating with Clarkey and Ryan for 2023. What a weird thing to say. I mean, another year is just blown by, Clarkey. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun on the show. Hope everybody's had fun with us. And, what better way to end as we're all going to be turning into one of these within a couple days.
Yeah.
We, of course, must end with our Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the week. It's a fun new tradition that we do here. We've had a lot of fun with our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86, east end of Listowel. And again, if you want to go out there, you're looking for a new couch to be a couch potato on, maybe a love seat, but they got lots of other stuff in there too. You need a new floor to be a couch potato on. Like, come on. Yeah, the hat's beautiful.
Yeah.
I like mine too. I mean, I like the very clean logo, very awesome store. Go in there. They got a lot of great holiday time deals. You can bet that they're going to have a lot of stuff going on for Boxing Day. All that. It's going to be it's going to be a blow. Hey, all the prices you see in there, by the way, I don't know how many more times we can mention this. We should mention it all the time. They include HST and delivery. Yeah. So don't even worry about it. You go in there, you need a new couch to be a couch potato on. Everything's taken care of in there for you with our friends at Conway Furniture. Speaking of taking care of things, let's do it. Last couch potato of 2023. Many more to come in 2024. Clarkey, get us started here.
I gotta go first. Okay,
please,
Ryan. You know as well as I do, there's been a lot of big sports moments in our lifetime, in my lifetime, in your lifetime.
Yeah,
and not only are those sports moments big in themselves, but we also remember the call and who made the call. Right. For instance, I want to take us back to 1972 and Foster Hewitt with Paul Henderson. There's nothing like that. I mean, Henderson has scored for Canada, right? Like we all know it was Foster Hewitt, right?
All the buildup before it too, the wild stab. Henderson makes a wild stab for it. And keep in mind, Henderson, when Paul scored that goal, he wasn't even supposed to be on the ice. He called for somebody. I can't remember who it was that he called for to come off. And the player thought it was the coach, and Paul jumped on because he thought he had an opportunity to score. Incredible story, man.
So then,
that's
of course,
all-timer.
Sidney Crosby, golden goal. Chris Cuthbert.
Sidney Crosby, the golden goal.
We'll never forget that, right? We'll never forget it. I mean, that was not that long ago. You remember where you were when that happened?
I was in my parents' rec room watching with my mom, and my recollection of that was because, of course, my mom jumped onto the Capitals, fandom with me because she's a good mom that way. So she left the Leafs and came over to the Capitals.
Yeah, she tells you that anyway.
So no, she's got an extensive jersey collection. I'm serious.
Yeah.
So of course hates Pittsburgh, and I remember my mom jumping on my back when Sid scored that goal and screaming, "The little you-know-what did it." And that was a fun memory.
There you go. And then 1980.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
We all remember. Do you believe in miracles?
Al Michaels.
From Al Michaels. Like, it was great. And we just remember not only the announcer, but also the play. Well, 10 days ago or so, in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, we had a new call. And this one went viral. And if you haven't heard it, Adam, let's tee it up and play it.
He turns back. Looks like they're doing a little reverse that you might see in football. And here comes Bays, and he's got some speed. He's trying to split the D. Oh, what's he going to do? He's shooting a roof daddy. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Look at that.
So, Roof Daddy, look at that. Look at this. Is that what he said?
Look at this. Look at that.
Look at this. Look at that. Now, you know why you should know what he said. Because it was just a few days later, some guy on a Guelph Storm broadcast, who is my couch potato of the week, copied the guy. Adam, roll it.
Will McFadden, who we know can handle it. McFadden in. Will McFadden. Oh, my heavens, what a goal! The rookie goes Roof Daddy. Look at this. Look at that. What a finish.
Great job by the rookie, Will McFadden.
Ryan Drury, you are my couch potato of the week for ripping off. Look at this, look at that. How could you do that? Who would say that? Who would say, do you believe in miracles? Who would say the golden goal? Who would say, look at this, look at that? I can't believe it. You're my couch potato of the week.
I'll take it. I'm getting some abuse for it. To be fair, and not to disparage our good friend Doug Roach out there in the MJHL on the call there on what is now what I would describe as a Canadian heritage moment, as Frankie Corrado on Overdrive described it as, and I agree. Doug Roach should be on the stamp. Not to disparage him, but I don't quite hold him in the same esteem as the other guys that you rattled off. Like, I don't think that I would.
You never know, though. In 10 years, 15, 20 years, we might be talking about Doug Roach.
I don't know if I would ever rip off, the golden goal, or certainly because the golden goal, like Gord Miller has said that since for World Juniors, that's what it is. It's a golden goal.
Yeah.
And CC did it in the biggest stage of all, of course, with Sid. The do you believe in miracles thing really is a thing where that's kind of Al's, or like, here's the thing. I was paying homage to Doug, Mr. Roach, and
okay.
I've taken some kickings online for people going, he just ripped off that. It's I obviously,
I know, and I'm
we were talking about this before we came on the air,
and I'm laughing because I know what my couch potato is. Adam, our producer, is following along like he didn't know what was going on. Meanwhile, we've been talking about it for the last half an hour before you got on. That's why we were a little delayed. You were sitting in the waiting room for a while, and that's what we were talking about.
I will say that thanks to Doug, because it inspired the call. I was paying homage to his very excited call, and I've gotten a lot of, I would say 98% of the feedback I've got. My phone has been blowing up over the last week. It was a good call,
Ryan. It was a good call.
Thanks, buddy. I do have to thank the staff over at Bar Down, and I was chatting with Julia Teixeira about it, and
nice.
We're gonna have her on the show again soon, and the TSN staff obviously over there at Bar Down for sharing it, because that's when it really started blowing up, and then my phone exploded, and a lot of messages, and it's been fun. But I also have to thank Will McFadden, the rookie Guelph Stormford, who scored that unbelievable.
You must have been waiting though, right? You were waiting for the right moment.
I was not. Here's the thing. That's a misconception about. I'm sure there are people that do have things that they're thinking of saying when a goal goes in,
and they're the worst ones.
That's one thing I will toot my horn on a little bit. I just kind of reacted to it, and the fact that he tucked it right upstairs.
Yeah.
We had been talking about the Roof Daddy call, as many in sports have over the last little while, and it was the first thing that came to mind. And that's why, if you listen to the clip again, you can hear my color guy, Mark Perry, giggle at the end.
No, we heard it.
I'm referencing that. So thank you, Doug Roach, obviously, and thank you, Will McFadden, for scoring that beautiful goal.
And going back to the scripted calls are the worst in my mind. The one famous of obviously Blue Jay call, Joe Carter, touch them all, Joe. Do you know why Tom said that? Tom said that because Joe Carter was rounding the bases, and as he got halfway to third, the whole team was out, and you could see him trying to get into the plate to touch it. So Tom just was calling what was happening. He goes, touch them all, Joe, because he wanted to make sure he touched the plate.
You have to legally touch every plate.
Absolutely.
Yes, every base.
So there you go. Anyway, you're my couch potato for the last show of 2023. Congratulations, Mr. Jury.
Thanks, pal. Yeah, it's I would like to reiterate, not that it really has affected me much, but
to reiterate anything.
No, I would like to reiterate though that there's some people that need some help out there, man, because I've gotten a couple pretty nasty messages. I don't know why. I don't know what I've done to offend these people. I know my play-by-play style is not for everybody, but there's just some people out there. I got a taste this week, I'll say, a small taste of why most famous people, and that's not me, but why most famous people have their DMs turned off on social media.
Well,
let me just say that.
Yeah,
so
it's social media. That's the problem.
What I will say again, though, is 98. I'd even say 99.9% of everybody reaching out to me has been very positive. I appreciate all the support and love I've been getting. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's my honor to be your couch potato, sir.
Okay, good.
Mine's a little different. Mine's a little bit on the negative side, and I'm sorry to send us into the Christmas break here, the holiday break, whatever holiday you happen to be celebrating. Whatever for us, it's Christmas. I hate to send us into the holiday break on a negative note here, but producer Adam, you've got the photo of it here, and again, I just want to take any opportunity I can to absolutely level this company for the unprofessionalism that continues to seethe and seach throughout the entirety of it. What we're looking at here is a Steve Yzerman authentic jersey, or at least that's what Fanatics would have you believe it is. As you can see, the numbers and name bar are about 5 inches too low, stitched improperly on the jersey, which is why the 1 and 9 of Stevie Y's great jersey are blending into the bottom color bar. And there are a mountain of these currently sitting on. I know you're wondering, the whole photo doesn't show it. Oh, is this sitting in a fan's closet? Because Clarkey, ever since the NHL signed the exclusive apparel deal with Fanatics, which is going to go down as one of the biggest mistakes the NHL's ever made from a business sense, because the company Fanatics is an embarrassing joke. We've seen lots of people posting when they order a jersey or a shirt or a hat, the logo's misplaced, the names are spelled wrong constantly. We see that. And you think, oh, is that just in some guy's closet? No, that photo was taken at Little Caesars Arena in the Detroit Red Wings official store. And there's racks full of jerseys in there with bad pressings, bad stitchings.
I think that's
misspelled names.
That's the store.
No, it's a shipment from Fanatics.
Because when I worked for the Leafs, they would just get blank jerseys and would logo and number them all themselves.
You're absolutely right. Now there are jerseys that are authentic in-house game-worn jerseys. Because the real game-worn ones are like upwards of $400. The authentic on-ice jerseys that the guys wear, those are stitched. Those are stitched in-house. Yeah. Those are done by the team. Those jerseys are the Fanatics brand apparel fan versions that are a little cheaper. They're about $250, depending on the style you get. That are what are known as replica jerseys. Mm-hmm. Fanatics did those ones. Mm-hmm. And there's stockfuls of them that were, I'm sure now that it's gotten quite a bit of internet attention, been taken down. But I just can't stand this company. They're cheap. The products they make are junk. I don't buy a lot of NHL official apparel anymore ever since Fanatics took over. Because remember, they took over from Adidas a couple years ago as the official jersey manufacturer. Now they have an exclusive deal for NHL team apparel with the NHL. So you buy a lot of the hats, everything. I don't buy it because it's junk. The quality stinks. And Fanatics, you could go online and look up Fanatics screw ups. And you could spend an entire day scrolling through endless pages of people that have had merchandise screwed up, and to have it hanging in a team official store at the rink It's embarrassing. You guys are
Oh, that's
potatoes.
embarrassing.
And I can guarantee, you know why I specifically brought this up for Christmas? Because I guarantee you there's going to be thousands of people, and that's not an understatement, opening Christmas gifts that are misspelled, badly stitched, poor quality, falling apart, and it's Fanatics' fault. They're cheap and they stink. They're a brutal company.
And you said they took over from who?
Adidas was the official jersey manufacturer.
And then when I look around over your left shoulder, look over your left shoulder, CCM. Over my right shoulder, Reebok. Like they've gone everywhere. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Now, to be fair, this CCM, you can't see it here. My Rod Langway Hall of Fame jersey. This was a jersey he signed. Yeah, but still, what my point is, like, they just seem to always be changing. I know, yeah, it's brutal, and Fanatics is the worst that it's ever been. And I'm not just talking about the jerseys; I'm talking about the apparel in general.
Yeah.
And once again, it's just an example of the NHL and the NHL fans getting the worst possible fan experience.
Yeah,
and I'm tired of it. Couch potatoes.
Yeah. Well, I know we've talked about this before, but I didn't bother buying the EA game this year, the Xbox game.
I got a code for it from a friend. You're not missing anything. It's horrible.
Yeah, I heard it is the worst one ever, and I've thought the last 3 or 4 have been bad. And you're basically paying for roster updates, and it's ridiculous. You are absolutely ridiculous.
The face scans in it are terrible. They still don't have authentic coaches in the game. My God,
because they won't pay them.
Come on,
that's why.
And also, they rejigged some of the controls that have been the controls for like 15 years, and people are livid about it. There's a lot. They need
to open it up to other companies.
Oh my God, please, NHL. EA Sports is an all the time couch potato. They're just an honorary couch potato of all time.
Yeah,
they're on the Mount Rushmore of couch potatoes.
Yeah, I didn't bother buying it. I really didn't.
Yeah, and I would encourage no one to buy it either.
I'm not spending $100 for roster updates. I think it's putrid that you can't continue to update a roster after a year. I think it's terrible. Anyway,
and it's on sale right now. Don't even buy that. Don't buy it at reduced price either.
No,
don't support this. Don't support it, guys. All right. Well, Clarkey, it's been fun. Thanks for the huge. It's a huge honor to be your couch potato. I'm very appreciative. I'm very appreciative of it. All right. So for all of our guests that have joined us this year, producer Adam, of course, who keeps us running.
Adam, Merry Christmas,
keeps us
Happy
looking
New
good
Year
on here, man. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating out there. Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, if that's your thing. You know, if you're a Frank Costanza guy, we don't know. Whatever you're celebrating this holiday season, enjoy it with your family and friends.
And you and I are going to be couch potatoes for the next 2 weeks.
Oh my God, are we ever? Yeah, we're going to be off for 2 weeks. We're going to come back in the new year, renewed, restored, reinvigorated.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. We're always ready to go, and we appreciate everybody watching and listening. And speaking of that, remember, you can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can find us on social media at Instigating Pod, where we share clips of the show to get you psyched up to watch the full thing. You can find the podcast version. You want to listen in the car on the way to Grandma's house for Christmas turkey? You can do that on Spotify and Apple, okay? And all your favorite podcast apps.
And speaking of your car, Hudson's has it. If
Hudson's
you're still looking for that late Christmas present or a post-Christmas present, come on in where Hudson's has it. We have a lot of vehicles that we're moving, and trucks and SUVs.
Winter stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So come on in where Hudson's has it. And the deals are,
despite it being winter, hot. They're hot, ladies and gentlemen. So visit them. If you don't have a rep, you can go see Clarkey. Maybe you already got a rep. Head in there.
And I had a visitor. I had a viewer. Kirk came in to visit me this week. Just wanted to say hello. Loves the show. Kirk, went on to tell me like 3 or 4 Leaf jokes that I wasn't appreciative of, but that's fine. Okay. I'll get over them. Yeah. What does TML stand for? Too many loafers.
Okay.
Yeah. So Kirk, thanks for coming in and saying hello. And
there you go.
He must be a Habs fan or something. But anyway.
Maybe, you never know. All right. And remember, hey, go visit our friends over at Conway Furniture so you can be a couch potato too, because being a couch potato in general, not a bad thing when you're with us here on Instigating. Right. And also, hey, you want to get active like me?
That's right. Get off the couch.
Get off the couch, go see our friends at the Listowel squash courts, and you can be like me and rack up some wins against Al over there. It's super easy to sign up. You can do it through Facebook. Just reach out. It's super easy to do. We appreciate our sponsors, everybody who's joined us on the show this year. We can't wait to be back in 2024, where we will be back with more Instigating.